Okay, guys, how you doing? This is a prelude to this video, leather versus Kydex, right? And the reason I'm doing this prelude is because this is a sensitive subject in the industry, especially among the consumers of knives and sheath systems and sheaths, okay? So, as you watch this video, just keep in mind that there's no offense intended, okay? I believe what I believe. I believe that Kydex is a better sheath material for knives that are used in the field, okay? Is leather a good sheath material? Sure it is, right? We've been using it for thousands of years, but that doesn't mean we need to stick with it just because we've been using it for thousands of years, okay? It is a well-known fact that most knife makers virtually have to. They're forced to go with leather sheaths because they're forgiving as far as the fit and finish field, right? They're much more economical for a production knife because it's almost impossible to have a one-size-fits-all Kydex sheath, okay? But that's where guys like me come in. The craftsmen who craft sheath systems like this, right? And there's not too many of us out here, okay? Just do a little bit of checking. And there's not too many that do it like we do it here at Yellowhawk, right? I don't know of anybody that does it like we do it, right? So, this is what I create for guys who are what I call hard chargers in the field, right? And that's all the way from, you know, I have a special operations background, military, avid outdoorsman, law enforcement, okay? Across the board, I build sheaths for everybody, right? And I've done military contracts, things like that. So, this kind of system, right? This kind of protection, this kind of safety, this kind of versatility and function is what I prefer, okay? And I think it has an edge over leather, okay? Now, you're going to see in the video that this is a Phobos Legion. Phobos, it's a company that makes knives. And here's the Legion that they make. They make all sorts of knives, okay? They got several different models in the market now, and I believe that their sheaths, okay, and I don't know where they have them made, okay? I don't know whether they make them themselves. I just don't know. But having this Legion and seeing their knives, because I have put Kydex sheath systems on a number of their knives that clients send me, right? This is the finest sheath I've seen yet that comes with a production knife. And it's versatile as far as carry. You can put, I've even seen guys put piggybacks on these things, right? They figure it out, okay? Is it as easy as doing it with Kydex? No, but it can be done, right? Now, Eric Hansen is an ex-Special Forces guy, right? Who is the owner of Phobos Knives. Phobos, again, stands for operators by operators. And basically, an operator is a Special Forces team member. They are operators, right? They go out and they accomplish missions in the field, right? So, anyway, they do a lot of other stuff, too. But Eric is, like I said, he's innovative, okay, when it comes to leather sheaths. He is introducing options and different clip systems and whatnot for his sheaths that I haven't seen anyone else do on a production sheath before. So that's pretty exciting as far as their leather sheaths that come on their knives is concerned. I also want to thank Eric because he recommends Yellowhawk Customs Outdoors as the maker for custom Kydex sheath systems for his knives, Phobos knives. And I very much appreciate that. I'm honored and humbled. And as you watch the video, you can make your own decision, right, as to what you like or don't like, or want to try or don't want to try. Okay? So keep that in mind and enjoy the video. I want to, as unbiasedly as possible, talk about retention, right? Especially where sheaths are concerned, right? And basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at knives in some typical leather sheaths, right? Something that would typically be offered with your knife when you buy it, okay? Typically, right? And then we're going to talk about retention of Kydex and options and things like that. And you could decide for yourself which is better for you. And I'm talking about better or not in the field. Okay, I'm not talking about a safe queen that sits on a shelf in your home that you adore, and you can put anything on that, any sheath you want on that, right? You're not using it. But for use, especially guys in the military, law enforcement, and hard-charging bushcrafters, campers, backpackers, you name it, right? Guys who actually get out there and do shit, right? All right, so let's talk about leather first. Leather is the tried and true sheath material that we all remember when we were kids, and most companies are still using leather to put their knives in, okay, for you to buy. However, the problem is that most companies, right, are putting them in the same sheaths they've been putting them in for years and years and years, for the last 20 years, 50 years, 60, 70, 90 years, okay? Times haven't changed, right? But materials have, right? And that's the benefit we have now. Leather, as far as a sheath material for a knife that's being used in the bush, leather has been replaced, pretty much, by Kydex or some type of thermoplastic, right? Kydex came around about the late 60s, right? It was more of a thermoplastic thing, but it wasn't really common in the knife industry, or starting to get common, until the 80s, right? Buck Knives was one of the first to put one of their knives in a thermoplastic sheath. That was the Buckmaster, right? I don't know how many guys remember that knife. I had one. It was a hollow-handled beast of a knife that Buck was offering back then to hard-charging military guys, right? And it was one of the best hollow-handled knives on the market. Strongest, I mean. Okay? Anyway, let's go back to leather. Okay? I'm going to show you a few common leather sheaths that knives will be offered in, no matter what knife you buy. Okay? These are some of the common sheaths you might see your knife come in, okay? The first one, okay, is a snap retention belt carry, okay, with the belt loop, right? Just a normal, everyday leather leg drop, they call it, okay? And this is the primary retention for this knife, okay? It could be any knife. This happens to be a Tops Tahoma field knife. It could be anything in here, okay? Now, I'm going to show you the inherent weakness in a sheath like this, okay? There's actually two main weaknesses. Okay, number one is the snap that can inadvertently come undone, okay? Once the snap comes undone, that knife is free to do whatever it wants to do, okay? If it had a mind of its own, it would jump out of the sheath, okay? And run from that leather. Anyway, I promise to be unbiased, okay? These are just facts, okay? So you got the sheath. It runs around the, you got the strap, right, with a snap on it that runs around the finger guard area, the ricasso area, right? Runs around that and snaps, and that is pretty good retention while the knife is in the sheath and the strap is snapped. Pretty good retention. But you brush up against a tree, you hit it with your hand, you come across some wait a minute vines down at Fort Bragg, in those, in the Uwharrie National Forest, in those draws, got those wait a minute vines that will pop these things off in a heartbeat, okay? And then you don't know that the snap is off, right? And you start running or whatever, and this knife just whoop, flops out of the sheath, and you never see it again, okay? That is the most common way to lose a knife in the field. At the very least, one of the most common, okay? I have seen that happen quite a few times in my 45 years in the bush or whatever, okay? Snaps come undone. They are a liability on a sheath, okay? If there is not a redundant retention on this sheath, then you are going to lose this knife eventually. You're lucky if you don't, right? The other problem with this is you have to actually physically move that thing out of the way when you sheath the knife, okay? Because if it's laying over, right, and you come down on it, you can see it's already starting to get cut by the person who owned it, okay? This is a sheath that came with a knife, right? And basically the client said, Doug, it's a piece of crap. Build me one of your sheath systems so I can have a, something that retains my knife securely and safely, okay? So anyway, if you don't physically move that out of the way, you can easily cut through this, right? And ruin the sheath as well, okay? Happens all the time, guys. So, there's the first type of sheath I wanted to show you. Leather, okay? Leather's an okay sheath material. It's okay. It has served us well for thousands of years. But we have thermoplastics now that are much more efficient at, you got to know what you're doing with that thermoplastic and create something that actually works. But leather, okay, here's the second kind, okay, where it's also a leg drop or a leather leg drop, but the knife is retained at the handle by a strap. Oops, right? Playing around in the woods. Oops, pops open, right? That thing, and the knife falls out, okay? This too, okay, if you don't spread them apart, when you put the knife in the sheath, you can easily cut that, all right? So, there's the second type of sheath, all right? All right? And go with me on this. It really doesn't matter whether it's a pull the dot or a regular snap. Some snaps have pretty good retention, but they can still be popped off. Any snap can be popped, right? Inadvertently. You don't even know it's happening, right? And if you've never seen it happen, right? Guy losing a knife because his snap came undone from his traditional leather sheath, you don't spend enough time in the field. That's all. Eventually you're going to see it. All right, so there's that one. That's another common type of sheath. Here's another one. This is a retention style sheath, right? Compression, where the sheath holds the knife and is compressed, right? So that it takes a little more force to pull it out, but there's no snap retention, right? So depending on how tight that is going to determine how secure your knife is in it. But if there is no way to actually retain it through thick and thin, eventually, I don't care how tight it is, unless it's in there like a vise, you're going to lose your knife from a compression fit, okay? The other thing is with leather, I've seen this happen many times as well. You put the knife in, you're resheathing it, right? And oops, you cut it, okay? I've seen that happen all kinds of different ways. I've seen guys put it through the back of the sheath, the whole knife through the back of the sheath, right? I've seen them slice the stitching down. I've seen them slice the leather down like this one, right? Just put it in and gone, right? It's easy to do. It happens all the time, okay? Then the sheath is ruined. All right? So there's that. Now, there are 3 very common sheaths that you might find coming with your knife, okay? Now, let's go with Phobos. Okay, so I thought I would stick this clip in here, right here, because I believe Phobos is one of those companies that gets it, right? And in fact, after checking a few sources and checking the internet and checking some of my contacts in the industry and whatnot, Phobos actually does offer the finest leather sheath that can come on a production style knife. Leather sheath, right? I took a second look at the leather sheath, and I tell you, as far as I'm concerned, Phobos really does have the nicest leather sheath of all the production knives out there, and semi-customs, right? This thing is comparable to a handmade, handcrafted leather sheath from one of the, top craftsmen out there, right? It's comparable to that. Now, is it exactly? No, not exactly. But you're not going to pay $300, $400 for this sheath either. You're going to pay a lot less than that. So price is a big issue here. But as far as production knives are concerned, in my opinion, these are the best sheaths. The sheaths that come on Phobos knives. For operators, by operators. Eric Hansen, right? I mentioned him. He's the owner of the company. And without Eric Hansen, Phobos wouldn't exist, right? All the ideas, most of them come from him, right? And including the decision to put a high quality leather sheath on his knives. Now, like I said, it is very difficult, almost impossible, to have a one-size-fits-all Kydex sheath. It just can't be done because of the molding characteristics of thermoplastic, right? It's too precise, right? So you can't do it, right? So most companies, right, out there, unless they have an in-house Kydex guy who does Kydex sheaths, right, all of them, almost all of them use leather, a leather sheath of some sort. And they're usually outsourced, right? The company that makes the knife usually doesn't make the sheath. They buy them from China or whatever, you know what I mean? Or here in the States, whatever. It comes from somewhere else, right? Or they put a Kedora nylon sheath. That doesn't even work. It's not even worth mentioning, Kedora. That stuff is so weak and crappy, right? I'm just going to say it, crappy. Kedora sheaths are crap, right? Trust me. Just trust me. They absorb water. They freeze. I had a Kydex guy who went on one of our rendezvous. It was so cold, his Kedora sheath froze, right, to the picnic table. and it tore, right, from him trying to get it out of there. I don't even think a leather sheath would do that. So Kedora doesn't. Kedora's not even worth mentioning in this video, right? So each one of these knives, like this is the Legion, the Phobos Legion. Each one of these is different, and with Kydex it matters. So basically, what I can do is I can give them to you quicker. If you have a Phobos knife, right, a Legion or a Tier 1, I have a way that I'll be able to give you a custom Kydex sheath system quicker than I do other customs, right? Because of how I do things with the Phobos knives, okay? So, like I said, just putting it out there that these really are the finest that I've seen yet on a production or semi-production knife, as far as a leather sheath is concerned. Kydex is different. Kydex is a thermoplastic that molds directly to the knife. So all of these little cutout shapes, edges, rounded points and all, they're all incorporated in the molding process. And when you're finished, you know, all the handwork that has to be done to a Kydex sheath, you have a sheath that not only holds your knife through thick and thin, right? Okay, this knife is not coming out of here, right? It's no mistake, right? You take a leather sheath and, you know, you put a knife in it and you undo the strap or whatever, that thing's flopping all over the place, right? You're probably going to lose the knife if you stay out there long enough, right? No one is that observant that they check their gear all the time, okay? So this thing holds them through thick and thin, okay? This one happens to be made by Bark River. Phobos is now going with a different knife maker, so you're going to find that their knives are going to be made by somebody different now, not Bark River, okay? So they still have that inherent weakness of snaps, okay? This thing, as long as it's snapped around that handle, okay, is pretty damn secure. Not going anywhere, right? But as soon as you brush up against something, knock it with your hand, that wait a minute vine reaches out and pops your shit off, right? You're done, okay? That knife will work its way out and you'll lose it, okay? This is the inherent weaknesses of most sheath leather sheaths, okay? Now, am I being unfair? No. This is a fact, all right? Snaps can easily become a liability, and you can easily lose your knife if they pop off. But I wanted to show you this leather sheath for the Phobos Legion, because this is one of the better designed, better, you know, more high quality leather sheaths that might come with a knife. Eric Hansen, he knows what he's doing. The best they can do is recommend a good aftermarket Kydex sheath maker, and Phobos, Eric Hansen and the guys at Phobos, they recommend Yellow Hawk Customs Outdoors. They recommend our sheaths for their knives as an aftermarket Kydex sheath system. Okay, and this, like I said, this is one of the better ones. It's got a couple of different styles of carry. It's got horizontal belt carry. You know, you can wear it this way, cross draw, a couple different ways, okay? And as a leg drop, okay? The leg drop does have snaps as well, okay? So be careful with those. But the snaps are covered, okay? And I think that was a really good idea. They cover that area, right? So that it's very difficult for those snaps to come undone. Plus, that's against your body. So that's a pretty secure way of carrying a knife, right? So thumbs up on that. But if you want an aftermarket Kydex sheath system for your Phobos knife, contact Yellow Hawk Customs Outdoors. So there's that. Okay, I just wanted to show it to you as being one of the better leather sheaths that might come with a knife. Okay, there are thousands of different knives out there, thousands of different makers. Okay, all right. So let's talk about Kydex. Okay, why Kydex is touted as the best sheath material to come along since leather. Okay, so I'm going to show you a leather elite made by Yellow Hawk Customs Outdoors. This is one of our leather elites. Okay, what this is, it gives you the best of both worlds. Okay, it'll give you a traditional leather sheath, the look, the feel, the smell. It is traditional full grain leather. You have brown, black, alligator, whatever. Okay, I have quite a few different selections of leather that you can choose from. Has a leather belt loop as well for the tabby dangler. And it's not just I throw a leather belt loop on there. These are oiled, waxed, right? And there's tooling available. I can put your initials in there. I almost always put our logo and some type of design on there that's cool looking. This is a generic Celtic design that just looks cool. Put these stitch lines in there, you know. It's not just a bare sheath with crappy edges, you know, a bare belt loop with crappy edges, and it's all finished up really nice, right? So full grain leather over a fully functioning Kydex sheath. Okay, so underneath of this leather is 0.96 black Kydex, right? 0.96, right, which is really thick stuff. That great click, right? Generally, Kydex sheath does not need a redundant retention system on it. Generally, it does not. It holds the knife really well. At least our sheath systems do. Okay, so that you got to use that thumb ramp to get that knife out of that sheath, right? And it's in there extremely securely. It's not going to pop out of there inadvertently. There's no snaps to pop off, nothing, right? It is held in there under tension with that Yellow Hawk click, right? It's in there, not coming out, all right? That is the greatest benefit of Kydex. Outstanding retention. Like, my knife is safe in that sheath. It ain't coming out unless I take it out type of retention. Okay? It's not, you know, it's not this, right? Where this pops off by accident, right? And you lose your knife. Okay? It is definitely nothing like this. Okay? So, this is Yellow Hawk Customs Leather Elite. This is the alligator leather that we have. Very nice, supple, great feel, right? It's got a good hand, right? So, works out real well. Best of both worlds, okay? I'm not going to lie to you. This sheath right here took me 9 hours to complete. 9 hours. So they're a little pricey, okay? But it's the best of both worlds. You get 2 sheaths in one, and the best of both worlds, okay? If you want a redundant retention, you're a hard charger, right? You're a soldier in a special ops unit, or just a soldier, period, right? And you want a redundant retention, right? Okay, I'll give you one of our slide locks, okay? They're put in there a little different than other people do this, okay? So that they're pretty secure. The hardware is not going to like work its way out, but I would always check it, right? Murphy's Law is a bitch. Always check your hardware, no matter what you're thinking. You go out on an op or whatever, before the op, when you're doing your checks and services on your gear, make sure everything's tight. Just make sure it's tight. That's all. Can't hurt, and it could keep you from losing your knife. All right. So here's the slide lock. Okay. Okay. You could great retention without it. Right. Great retention. Big knife. This is one of those Bark River Dark Timber Grizzlies. Right. There it is. Okay, and then there's the lock. You engage the lock all the way, and you can get it out, but you really got to fight. Okay, I don't believe in locking a knife in a sheath, but it is extremely difficult to get out. Okay, you really got to muscle it. Okay, halfway, you put the lock in halfway, engage it, right? It's a little harder to get out, okay? So there are varying degrees of retention there for you, okay? It works great, right? Just snap it up and it's locked. It's locked, not coming out, right? You throw this thing across the field and it's not going to pop out, okay? All right, so there's that. All right, I think that's it for this discussion. I hope it helps you guys. If you have any questions, contact me. Text me. 443-315-6033. See ya!